Today's conversation is principally some tips for farmers coping with pig farming in the current times, which of course is difficult for a lot of farmers. So the topic is farming pigs in economically challenging times, tips to optimize um, farm productivity. That's the topic. And my guest today is a Ugandan farmer, um, a pig farmer who. Uh, okay, so I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself. Although we can't see you, but we trust you have a stable network connection, so we can actually learn from you and get some vital tips from your hand. So I'll leave you to introduce yourself.
Okay, so all the viewers and listeners actually on our platform, I want to welcome you on this live broadcast as we try to have a word one-on-one with other farmers across Africa, not only Africa but all over the world. My name is Emmanuel. I'm a farmer in Uganda, apparently, and I'm really very happy to have to host this show with my colleague Victor Ayo, who is in Nigeria. However, we expect at least people to come through and at least we have one-on-one with them. If you have any question, then you can really bring on your question so that at least you can be able to help out a farmer. We are here to have a joint effort in order at least to optimize our pig industry so that at least we can be able to have a query of something all over. Yes.
Okay. So let's quickly move on with this conversation. Farming pigs in economically challenging times. Well, there are two key areas we want to look at. Principally, pig farming involves breed, involves genetics, involves management, involves nutrition. Our discussion this afternoon is going to focus mainly on the genetics aspect of pig farming and management. And what we want to look at is how farmers can how farmers can optimize on genetics in terms of both breed selection and how they are able to breed their animals properly, and how farmers can also manage their farms properly. We understand that uh, when it comes to dealing with these times, it is important for every farmer to get it right. The way you start your farm, the kind of daily management routines that you engage with is fundamental for you to optimize and block wastage. So I'm going to start with you, and I want you to give me a little bit of background, share a little bit of background to the genetics factor in optimizing farm productivity.
Yes. Thank you very much, Victor. Apparently, we need to make our people across Africa, people who are new in the business, people who do not know, people who do not trust something that if we want to optimize anything in agriculture, most especially in livestock, we have to look at what you call genetics. We have to look at genetics. Genetics has played a very, very big role in optimizing in whatsoever we are producing in agriculture. The problem, what I'm realizing, is that people confuse genetics with genetically modified. If, for example, we say someone should go back to the basics, someone should go back to the pure line, it does not mean that someone is going to go back to something which is genetically modified, something which is laboratory made. No, we should differentiate the two things. If people, the problem is that when people talk about genetics, people think something which is laboratory made. Initially, we have to rectify that out, Victor, to the people. That here
Okay.
we are trying to look at pig breeding and we are looking at superior genetics. But when we talk about genetics, people think
Okay.
that this is a pig which is genetically modified, a pig which is made in the laboratory. So, Victor, that is a very big challenge. It's a very, very big challenge which I've gotten across all the people, most of the people I've had a conversation with. So,
Can you hear me?
have a very huge network.
Okay, can you go ahead?
Sorry, Victor. No, yeah. Sorry. I'm back online right now. So what I was trying to say that we have to rectify, we have to put this thing out of people's minds so that when we're talking about genetics, it's not about genetic modification. No, but we are talking about here, most especially in the pig business, we are talking about following the route. We are talking about the line of production. It's because people think that the pigs that they have, which is a local breed or which is undefined genetic, it is a right breed. So when you talk about someone that there's or you can have a pig which can perform, people believe that is a laboratory. It's a laboratory made. So these are some of the things that we have to rectify and make right in people's minds so that they know. That's the challenge we're having.
Okay.
However, if I'm to start with the genetics as line, as you say that I should introduce, all our viewers should know that in life or in the pig business, we have two types of genetics. Two types of lines. We have what you call the maternal line, and then we have what you call the paternal line. And in the maternal line, we have only two maternal lines. We have what you call the landrace, 100%. That's a grandparent. And we have what we call a large white, 100%. It's also a grandparent. However, the cross of the two forms what we call the parent stock, which is the F1, the first video. This is the 50% large white and 50% landrace. Anything that you introduce out of the F1, it then becomes F2. So any offspring from the parent stock, which is the F1, is automatically going to give us an F2. And F2 is a cross of a paternal and 50% maternal. Or someone can say, fine, I have my F1, but I want to again use maternal semen so that I can produce more reproductive stock on the farm. Yes, it will still be an F2. So an F2 is a result of a production from an F1. That is an F2. So with the paternal lines, in our discussion with Victor, continuous discussion, we shall, as the people that will be always sharing with on Twitter, we shall know the different paternal lines, the different paternal breeds that we have. For example, we have the Duroc, we have the Pietrin, we have, those are some of the paternal lines, but we go on modifying. For example, like people can bring in the P81, but it still is a Pietrin. We have the L337, but you realize that is an improved Duroc in a way. So something like that. So in other words, we have to get to know the root. When we get to know the root, then that is when we shall know the patents. That, for example, if Choice Genetics produces an F1, what is it as a result of? It is as a result of a Choice Genetic landrace and a Choice Genetic large white. When you cross the two, you are going to form the Choice Genetic 36, CG36, which becomes a Choice Genetic F1. So in our discussion, we can continue having that. That's a brief of what I can try to tell our farmers, Victor, and our viewers online.
All right.
Yeah.
So quickly, we've spoken about grandparent stock, and there's so many farmers who will be watching this who may be wondering some of these terminologies. What we actually mean when we talk about GPS and F1 and F2. But I think most of them will actually want a direct approach. So most of them want a direct approach in terms of they want to start a
Victor network.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes,
so most of them would actually want to want us to hit the nail on the head. They want to start a pig farm. What do they need to go into commercial pig production? What kind of breeds? What kind of breeds do they need to go into full scale commercial production?
Okay. with commercial pig production, we have, as I always inform the people, we have to understand the genetics. We have what we call a grandparent. A grandparent is a certified large white or a certified landrace, which is 100% pure. When I mean a certified, we are talking about a breed which has been authenticated, which has been certified by a breeding company. We have examples of breeding companies in the world. We are going to talk about Choice Genetics, that is in France. We are going to talk about Pig Improvement Company, which is the pig in South Africa. We are going to talk about Alliance Genetics. Again, it's in South Africa. We shall talk about we have very many pig companies. So if a pig company certifies a pig from their breeding stock that it is a grandparent, it means it is dealing with what we call pure line, 100% pure. And as I say, the grandparents are in maternal lines. These are reproductive. As you can hear the word maternal, these are reproductive pigs. Their work is to do multiplication. And a grandparent, for a pig to qualify to be a grandparent, it should be 100% of a pure line. We have two GPs. We have two maternal lines which qualify to be grandparents. We have we have the large white, others call it the Yorkshire, and then we have the landrace. So the pure landrace is a grandparent, and the pure large white is a grandparent. Now, in our pig business, unless when you really want to be a pig breeder, that is when at least you can go in and then you say you're acquiring what you call the grandparents on your farm so that you can do production of an F1. But for a farmer who is interested in doing porkers, this is a farmer who is going to acquire what you call F1s. As I told you earlier, the F1 is a result of a cross of pure large white and a pure landrace. We are talking about the pure 100% large white, and we are talking about 100% landrace. The cross of the two is going to cause 50% large white and 50% landrace, making it the F1, which is the parent stock. I'm going to call it the parent stock because it is the parent stock. Yes.
Okay. So I want you to hold on a second there because
yes.
You mentioned something about certifying that an animal is actually a landrace or a large white. That genetic companies are in the best position to do that. Because why I drew your attention to this is simply because we have a lot of farmers who have what they believe is large white or landrace, basically using the physical characteristics of the animals to judge. Based on this, we can assume that these animals cannot be judged to be what they look like unless there's a direct certification to that effect.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. When you mention things like this, within the context of our discussion, which of course is how farmers can farm pigs in economically challenging times. One of the things that comes to my mind is genetics and performance. Because we have a lot of farmers having a lot of animals that are not really doing very well. I want you to let's look at the performance angle. Because at the end of the day, we have people complaining about the high cost of feeding, high cost of feeding. Um, with the right genetics, what can the farmer really expect to get?
Um, First and foremost, we have to move away from the fact like we just go ahead and feed the pigs anything, but we have to look at feeding the pigs with the right nutrition. The right nutrition does not involve leftovers from a function or anything, collecting and taking them to the pigs. No. That's why I always say, by the time a person goes ahead and invests in what you call the superior genetics or the right genetics in piggery, it means this is a person who has sat down and understood the dynamics of modern pig farming. So when you are talking to me, I need to rectify this from the people. Because you see, Victor, when you bring up that question, people may think like if we talk about the portions in which we're supposed to be giving the pig or with the right genetic, the person is going to think that is even going to go ahead and pick the leftovers and give to the pig. No, I believe you have to be specific about the nutrition bit, which is the right nutrition which is mixed for the pig. However, I'm going to assume that is what we are talking to people whom we assume that either want to acquire the right genetics, they want to acquire knowledge about acquiring the right genetics, or these are people who are already in the right genetics. So should we assume that so that we continue?
Yeah, let's assume. Okay. Let's look at it this way. Let's look at it this way.
Mm.
For a farmer looking to actually make money from pig farming, what they should
Yeah,
do is to go for the right genetics. That's
wonderful.
that's the foundation. That's the foundation
Yes,
of our discussion. Go for the
yes.
right genetics because
Go for
the
because we,
efficacy of what you are giving those animals will depend largely on the genetics makeup of the pig. So if the pig
wonderful.
is not really good, then whatever you are giving to the animal will not reflect on the animal's performance. So that is the foundation of our discussion.
Okay, then, Victor. Um,
Yeah.
First and foremost, Victor, we have to remind our viewers and our listeners, whoever is on this platform right now, when you acquire good 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 genetics, when you acquire superior genetics, it is not merrymaking. Because why am I saying that it is not merrymaking? We need to understand the departments of piggery. Right now, Victor, we are tackling what we call uh, the nutrition bit. Somehow, we're bringing in the nutrition bit in terms of the conversion and all. But let me go to the question straight because I guess we shall get there. With the good breeds, with the superior genetics, or with the right breeds, one thing we have to be rest assured is the feed conversion. These animals consume less, but the conversion of the feed into their body is excellent. We look at some
Okay,
companies which have a feed conversion of 2.5 to 1.
which
The
is
animal
which
is
is
going to
basically, hold on
two
a
and a half
second. Let me
kilos.
just yeah,
Yeah,
which is basically 2.5 kilo to 1 kilo of weight. So it
to
takes the
1 kilo.
animal 2.5 kilo of feed to get 1 kilo of weight.
Acquire 1 kilo. Yeah,
Yes.
yes. But in my own research, I reached a moment and I realized this, Victor, that with a good genetics, it depends on which line you are taking. We have people who are doing the pokers. We have people who are doing the breeding. Then we have people who are doing both. So I believe we are going to help out all the three categories. But all the three categories will be helped in the two categories. So people will tend to understand. Let's look at the duration at which you want your pig to be off the farm.
Can you hear
For
me?
example, if yes. Victor? Yes, hello. Yes, Victor, you're on and off. I don't know.
Yeah, I just had a network glitch.
Okay,
Had a
then.
network glitch. Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. We are saying that
Okay.
we have to help two different categories of farmers. We have to help the farmers who are doing the breeding bit, and then we have to help the farmers who are doing the poker bit. Then the farmers who are doing both breeding and poker. So I was trying to tell you that the farmers who are doing the poker bit, we have to look at the duration. What is the extent at which a pig for poker is advised to be at the farm, Victor? Maybe you can help me
Yeah.
answer the question to the farmers.
Okay. So that's something. And you are a farmer. You've worked with you're actually using choice genetics products, the F1 and so on. So, what is your road to market? What is how many months does it take your animals to get to finish? What's the finish rate, the duration to
Yeah.
finish rate, and so on? Just
Yeah.
share an insight so people can actually we can actually
Oh,
compare
okay.
and contrast what
Okay.
they have.
We can actually let's help them in that way. It is advised that a pig farmer who is uh, who is uh, who is farming that is to finishing. A pig farmer who is concentrating to the finisher, that is the market side of the poker bit. Maximum it's supposed to be at maximum. Let it be 22 weeks.
Okay.
Yes, maximum let it be 22 weeks. At 22 weeks, we expect the weight to be at prime, but that is going to depend how we feed our animals. When you look at those companies, when you look at those big companies that are really doing the poker bit, you realize that since the poker, most of the pokers, with the pokers, they have a 50% paternal line, right?
Okay.
Yes, but you realize that the feed conversion rate, the FCR in the paternal, is higher than the FCR in the maternal.
Okay.
Yes. So it's very easy for a paternal to maintain an FCR of 1,000 grams per day additional weight. It's
Okay.
very easy for a paternal to maintain. I quote this: it is very easy for a paternal line or for a poker to have a feed conversion of 1,000 grams per day at a steady maintenance. But it is very hard to have a maternal that has a steady feed conversion rate of 1,000 grams per day. You are going to realize that it will drop to 0.7, it will drop to 0.9, it will drop to 0.8. That is the maternal bit. When we talk about the maternals, we are looking at pigs which are at the farm for the purpose of production, for the purpose of multiplication. In our continuous discussion, we shall see why it is advisable to have a maternal line for production and why it is not advisable to have a paternal line for production. That's why when you go to those developed pig industry developed countries, you realize that even with the F1s, actually, most of the people who are doing the production of the F2s, I mean, it is strictly for poker. Strictly for poker. Any pig out of the F2 is strictly for poker. Because at the end of the day, these are people who already have what we call the parent stock on the line. And this parent stock, when they go ahead and they introduce the semen, they cross this parent stock with the paternal line. You are going to have a 50% maternal and a 50% paternal. And with the maternal, you are going to have 25% large white and 25% pure landrace and a 50% of a maternal line that you've introduced. So that pig has a very high FCR, the feed conversion rate, compared to 100% maternal line. which the parents store. So
I
what
think,
am
I think,
yes,
yeah, I think conversion is a very important aspect for
true.
commercial pig production. Feed
Yes.
conversion,
Mm.
vis-a-vis the kind of genetics the farmer chooses to employ in his farm. Farmers need to, um, one of the real reasons why farmers need to acquire improved genetics is because improved genetics guarantees you a superior conversion rate. And if you look at industry standards, I think conversion rate of 3 to 1 or probably 2.5 to 1 is usually the norm for farmers, and this is
Yeah.
guaranteed by by the genetics that the farmer engages with. And it's surprising because I've looked at it this way: farmers are trying to
Yeah.
cut costs, in terms of bringing down the input, the cost to spend on feeding the animals. But if we were
Yeah.
to look at it in terms of getting the best breed, so that whatever cost you spend on feeding is reflected in performance, I think that's usually the best approach to engage with. Let me break my position down for you.
Please. Yeah.
So we have a lot of farmers who actually want to, let's say, cut the cost of feeding per kilo, what it takes to produce a kilo of feed. They actually want to cut it down in the with the thought or with the belief that by bringing down the cost per kilo of whatever they are producing, it would actually help improve their profit margin. But
Hmm.
if we were to look at it this way and say, okay, look, instead of bringing down this your cost of feeding, why don't you improve the genetics you have so that this amount you are spending would actually be effective? Because we have predominantly a situation where farmers are spending on feed, but it is not reflecting on the performance of the animals simply because they are not actually using the right genetics. So genetics, feed conversion rate, those are the key things for farmers to actually look at.
That is actually very, 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 very true. People think that by reducing one the amount of feed that they give to the animal, which is okay, but again by trying to cut down the cost, as you said, they believe that they are trying to optimize the peak performance. But at the end of the day, when you look at these good genetics, the more you feed them, the more they are going to add on weight. And that's why I'm saying, when you look at the poor performers, what we call the antrust genetics, and you put them with the genetics, you realize that to attain a maximum of 100 kilo, you are going to have you are going to have uh, you are going to have not less than a year, not less
Yeah,
than a year for the ant.
yeah, with
Yes,
yeah, with the unverified genetics, right? You spend at least
yes,
a year.
yeah.
Um,
Well, we're going. It's not going to. It has to be on the farm more than a year. But when you look at the good genetics, when you look at the
can you hear
good
me now?
pig breed, yes, I get you. I get you.
Okay, so I think summarily, all the efforts should be targeted at acquiring the best breeds
Yes.
possible in the market.
Okay. But I still wanted to help the farmers in the like the poker side. I was talking about the poker, and
Yeah.
I was giving an example about those big companies, what they do. What those big companies do, the pigs that are meant for poker, they are going to subject them to what you call ad lib. Ad lib is all time feeding. He knows
Okay.
that I need this animal to be off by around 4.5 months to 5 months, because he expects every month to put on at least a minimum of about 30 kilos, every month. So he knows that, okay, fine, I want this animal is going to be on the farm for 20 weeks. So if it's going to be on the farm for 20 weeks, just imagine like the 3 weeks, I mean the 3 months, that's about the first 12 weeks. the first 12 weeks. You don't expect a full-time peak performance. We are no, the first 8 weeks. We don't 8 or 10 weeks. We do not expect a full peak performance. Why? Because the consumption of the pig is less, and at that time it's not yet in that kind of situation whereby it's going to consume a lot, and it's going to be in that kind of energetic kind of moment or energetic session, whereby right now it is on what you call the grower session, whereby we expect high performance. That's why when you look at when you look at the kilos, they tell you that we expect to win a piglet when it is about, when it has a minimum lower bound, it is 12 kilos, and higher bound at least when it is 18. I mean, it is 15 kilos. The lower bound is about 11 or 12 kilos, and the higher bound, that is, if it has performed very well, we expect it to be around 15 kilos. That is at weaning. So that you realize that by the time it gets to the second month, we expect that animal to have at least 22 kilos. You get the point, Victor?
Yeah.
So when it gets to the 22 kilos, just imagine now, that is on the 8th week. By the time it hits the 10th week, this is the animal now which has concentrated on eating and drinking. You are giving it quality food. It is always on all-time feeding. You expect high performance. That is when it hits to 20 weeks, you expect not a minimum of 100 kilos. That is performance. So if you have like about 10 or 15 that you have to put off the bucket, because look at it, you see, that's why I always say people who have interest genetics, the cost of production is higher than the person with good genetics.
Yeah, that's correct.
You get yes.
Cost of production with animals of underwhelming genetics performance is usually higher than for farmers who have quality genetics, and that is because of the incidence of conversion. Okay.
Exactly.
So weekly weight assessment should be able to review this. I think the tragedy mostly is a lot of farmers do not embrace data collection in the farm to be able to determine the performance, the trajectory, the growth trajectory of the animals.
Yeah.
If farmers were to, undertake periodic weight assessments, in addition with looking at whatever has been consumed by the animal over the week, then they will be able to have a full understanding of how this comes to play in terms of what they are spending and what they are getting.
Very
Because
true.
you'd see in certain farms, you see farmers spend maybe 30, maybe 10 kilo of feed throughout the week, and they only get about 1.5 weight gain. I think
Exactly.
that's something that farmers
Very,
need to
very,
look at.
very,
But,
very
but
bad. Yeah.
you,
Poor
you won't
performance.
you won't understand this. You won't understand this until you do periodic weight assessment. And if you look at it from the management part, data collection is important to really understand where you are going to as a farmer.
Excellent.
Yeah, I want you to understand something. I think you raised valid points about genetics, and I think that the way we capitalize the farm, the way we organize the farm is really crucial to how much profit farmers can make. You
True.
see, from my own experience, I think the real core investment in piggery is the investment in breed and the investment in nutrition.
Mm.
Because for me, pig farming is profitable insofar as the farmer is able to hit market weight within 6, maybe 7 months. Worst case
Yeah.
scenario, that is that is the profitability threshold for a
Yeah.
farmer.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
when the farmer has to keep the pig for up to 12 months, for up to 14 months, up to 16 months, I do not see any possibility of the farmer ever making profit in that business.
Very true.
So And owing to poor or lack of record, farmers do not actually know whether they are making money or not, because as long as they are selling, they believe that they are making money. But maybe what they are doing is to recycle their startup funds. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to just quickly go through everything you've said. You've spoken about um, genetics. We've looked at the issue of grandparent stock for breeders, and we looked at the issue of porkers, people having to use the paternal line to serve the maternal lines, and so on.
You
Um,
okay?
yeah, I want to quickly go into management. I want to quickly go into management. You are a pig farmer, and you are hands-on with your farm. How is the daily management routine for? How do you handle it? What are those key tips that you would like to recommend for pig farmers?
First and foremost, for every pig farmer, actually not like not I don't even have to use the word for every serious pig farmer or every serious farmer in Africa. I'm going to concentrate in Africa because we need to do a lot in Africa so that we get to the point. For every serious farmer in Africa, bookkeeping is most important. If you can go ahead and you inject in not less than 5,000 US dollars to start a commercial pig production, and you do not have bookkeeping, even just paying about $10 a month for an app online to help in organizing your farm, then I believe you are a farmer who is like a car buyer who can go and buy a brand new car but cannot service it. I request all the farmers to, we don't even you don't even need this bookkeeping, physical books and everything of the sort. Right now, whoever, because I always challenge my colleagues, whoever is doing pig production of good genetics, one is a person. One, when you look at his educational background, he is somewhere. Meaning, this is a person who understands. Because not every lay person is going to come and understand genetics. You need a lot of dedication and knowledge to sit down and understand genetics, which you know very well. Not every lay person can go ahead and. For a person to pick up not less than 3,000 US dollars to inject in genetics, giving an example, even if it's $1,500 to inject in genetics, it means this person has a capacity to get about, even if it's $5 per month or $10 per month, to manage bookkeeping. Online application for piggery, specifically for piggery, to do bookkeeping. You get the point. You get the point, Ayo.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'm with you.
when you have your genetics in your records, it's going to help you even as assess to have what you call your weight records. Because you can be able to follow up your weight record, and you can even be able at least to, the system can be able at least to get for you the ADG, that is the average daily gain, after at least a weekly measurement of the pig. So we have to understand that when we do that, we shall know whether we are on the right direction or on the wrong direction. If you realize that this week there's been a steady increase, then you know, okay, fine, everything is constant. If you realize that at least the following week, for example, if this week the animal has been able to add on like about 7 kilos, that's that is roughly an average daily gain of 1,000 grams or 1 kilo per day. Then you realize that the following week it has only added on 4 kilos. Then that is when now you go through the question marks. What is wrong? Is it the feed? Then you have to go and check yourself. check your workers, check your people at the farm. What is wrong? What happened? Go back and check yourself. You know, when you check yourself, you'll find a problem. Either the animal is having stress, is somehow sick, or the feed wasn't good that you picked this time around, or there's a problem with the water system, or you need to at least put some vitamins. We always have to be on the check of these animals. That's why I always recommend people at least to have the system. Let me have the system on ground. Have an online system. You have a smartphone. Have your system on ground. That is record keeping. You have to keep a record of your animals.
Okay, so
your feed. Yeah.
Before we go further,
Yes.
you said a lot of things about record keeping. What
Yes.
are those key components that will form a proper record, a proper farm record? Those are the key components that should be in a proper farm record.
We should every animal that is on the farm, every pig that is on the farm, should have a date of birth, a DOB. We have to look straight from when was this animal born, or when did you bring this animal on the farm, or when was it born? That is one. That is a very huge component, even for people who are doing production, because you find that there are people who want to concentrate on pig production, but when their pig is going to give birth, their sow is going to give birth, and they want to sell to a lay person like Victor, but this person cannot even give Victor the records. So how is Victor going to assess his performance of the animal when you sold me an animal and I do not know the record? So it means I cannot be able to assess when it is going to be on heat, when it is about to give on heat. Because let me give you an example, Victor. If I sold you a pig and I told you its date of birth is January 14th, you get a point. You can be able to track the record. Or no? Okay. Within the 6 months, within the first 6 months, I expect this pig at least to show signs of heat. Unless now, when it gets to the 6th month, you start monitoring your animal. When is it showing the signs of heat? When it shows the sign of heat, you pick the record. Then you know, okay, I'm giving it now more 21 days. When I look at its weight, when I look at the time it has come on heat, it's still young, you know, so I need to give it another 21 weeks, at least to have it mature, for it to be able to give me a number of piglets. So, first and foremost, we have to look at the date of birth. We farm based on the date of birth. That's the first and foremost. Two, we have to look at the genetic component. You have the pig at the farm. What is the genetic component? When you are entering it into that system, these are some of the most important things. Even the people who have come to visit your farm to know, you are supposed to be telling them the genetic component of the pig. That's why even when you come to me to buy an animal, and I do not tell you the genetic component, because I can tell you, no, this animal you see is an F3. It is 50% maternal and then 50% paternal. And with the paternal line, for example, I use an L337 or I use the P90. And with the maternal lines, we know it is a 25% landrace and a 25% large white, qualifying it to be an F3. When I give you all those records well documented, you can have trust. You can know this, because no one wants to buy from someone. No one with modern kind of farming wants to buy from someone who doesn't have records. The first thing you have to ask, where are the records? So that at least you know. You have to track the weight. That even when someone comes, because we are doing business. We are doing business. How can you do business when you do not know the weights of your animal? You are feeding just for the sake of feeding because you have the money to buy the feed, but you are not taking records. What if you are feeding something which is not performing?
Okay, so I want you to hold on a second. Okay?
Yes.
You've mentioned some of the key things. You need to have your breeding records. Your breeding records, of course, will specify the dam as well as the sire. Okay, date of birth, other additional information. You need to also have a weighing record.
Yes.
continuous weight assessment record that you'll
Yes.
be able to say, okay, this particular group of animals, this has been their weekly average from so and so and so on and so on. Okay. So
Yes.
that those are two things I've actually picked. Okay, you can go ahead now.
Yeah. So those are the major things that you're supposed to be having records about. You get? So
Okay.
actually, those are the major ones that you're supposed to be picking up. Three. Yeah, actually four. We are supposed to be looking at the feeds. We are supposed to be looking at the feeds. You know, all what I've mentioned go hand in hand. How are they
Yeah.
going hand in hand? We are looking at a scenario whereby if I know my date of birth, I know in which categories I'm supposed to be feeding these animals. You get the point? Where I'm supposed to be knowing when I'm supposed to be feeding the animals, which feed I'm supposed to give this animal, when I'm supposed to be feeding this type of feed. Because people think that with the pig business, it is about any type of feed. You for the grower, it's going to even be fed on what is supposed to be eating the creep feed. You get the point? So
Okay.
that's the biggest challenge. So that's why I'm saying that when you have the records, you are supposed to the records that you hold, they give you a direction on what you're supposed to be feeding and when you're supposed to be feeding. That if you know that at least from 0 weeks to 5 weeks, I'm supposed to be feeding this because your records show. Then it becomes very easy for you. It becomes very easy for you to know that at least from this session to this session, I'm supposed to be acquiring these feeds, and these feeds are supposed to be working like this. So those are some of the challenges that we're having. And those are
All
some
right.
of the things
So
that are supposed to be rectified out. Yes, Victor.
okay. So
Yes.
record keeping is crucial to whatever successful big farm operation that the farmer wants to do, and that record
Yes, yes,
should include the date of birth record,
yes,
information on the animals,
yes.
their source and when they came into the farm. You should
Mm,
also have breeding and service record that would actually show right from when the animal is being bred to when the
yeah.
animal farrows, and in cases where you have pre-wean mortality or thereabout, or maybe you have stillbirth, you should be able to account for it, knowing that this animal in the
Mm.
future you should be able to say, okay, this animal has a proclivity or a tendency to have stillbirth and so on. So you actually know how you can arrange vaccination for that particular animal. So breeding and service record is important.
Actually, I
You
hope you
meant,
answered that. I was trying to bring in the vaccination bit, but at least you've talked about that. You've hinted on it.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
and then you have things like continuous weight assessment record.
Yeah.
Farmers um, farmers need to have a way or mechanism to weigh their animals every week, or at least a sample of their animals every week,
Mm.
and then compare it with because I think that with weight assessment it can be a little bit deceptive. Um, every weight assessment, in my opinion, should be analyzed in relation to what the quantity and the quality of feed that is given to the animals.
True.
Because
Wonderful.
if you do weight assessment and you just present it on the spreadsheet and say, look, my animals got 20 had 2 kilo this week. For me it's a little bit empty. You should be able to tell us, look, this is how much of feed they consumed. um,
Exactly.
you should be able to analyze the cost of their feed during this 7-day window, 7-day period, and they say, okay,
Yeah.
they consumed this kilo of feed and they were
Mm.
able to gain this kilo of weight, and this is the cost per kilo of whatever they consumed. You would be
Mm.
able to glean from this information if these animals, if you actually need to improve the ingredients, your feed formulation, you need to be able to, if you should improve it or not, or if you should also improve the quantity issued out to the animals or not. So every weight assessment record, in my own opinion, has to be analyzed in relation to quantity and quality of feed that's been issued to the animals. That's something that farmers will need to know. Yeah. So just a question here. Someone asked a question: is there a software application that is customized to the Nigerian scenario that can be used for bookkeeping?
Uh,
Um,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
You can go ahead.
I will allow you to answer that. Do you use a software application? Do you use an application, a mobile
Yes, I
application, or do
use.
you actually
I
just
use. I use. I use actually an online software application to do that.
what's the name of
Actually,
your
and
what's the name?
actually, right now it's Vivatek. Bivatek. I'll help you.
What's the
I'll
name?
share with you. It's Bivatek. Bivatek. I think let me see here if I can be able to share it with you. But my team, I also have a team which is working on developing that kind of software. Hello, Victor. Victor, are you getting me?
Sorry, I had network glitch. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Victor, I'm getting you.
Okay. Okay. So what I was about to ask, what is the name of the application you're using?
As I speak right now, I'm using an application called for Bivatek. I wanted to share it with you so that you can help the farmers. You
I
can
didn't
help
get that.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say that there's an application I'm using is for Bivatek Limited, and
Okay, Beavertech.
yeah, Bivatek. But my
Yeah.
team is also working hand in hand because now we are getting first class information from the ground to design the software again, which is. But apparently, right now I'm using a Bivatek software, and it
What,
is
what's the
able
name of
at
the
least.
what is the name of the
Uh,
application?
that's what I'm trying to get right now. It is called. Kind of hold the line. Kind of hold the line. Try to pick it, and I see the software I'm trying to use is actually not. I'm trying to use the software I'm using. It's called it's called My Piggery Manager.
Okay, my piggery manager.
My Piggery Manager. Yeah, My Piggery Manager.
Yeah, by
The person will see it's for Beavertech.
Beavertech.
Actually,
Yeah, Beavertech.
it is not. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's not. It's not. It doesn't restrict in Uganda. In Nigeria, because I believe, not I believe. Actually, there are people even in Ghana who are using it right now.
Yeah,
People in
I had my piggery manager installed on my phone.
yeah,
A few yeah, I had the application. I've used it
yes,
before, but
yes.
I have the time, so I prefer using running all my calculations on Excel. I have the time. I prefer running all my calculations on Excel because there's so many variables I want to bring in to be able to present my reports. But I think just like you said, record keeping is fundamental. The whole pig farming operation will crash. The whole pig farming operation will crash where there is no records. Farmers need to embrace proper record keeping in their farm. So that is important. We've just lost my guest. I'm sure he's going to come. I'm sure he's going to come on board. So that is essentially what we need to look at. We need to be able to keep records. Records is a management tool that would improve your decision making. Okay. Record
Yes,
is a
Victor. Yeah,
management
yeah.
tool. Yeah,
I'm back online.
yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before you left, I was re-emphasizing the point that record keeping is a management tool that will improve the farmer's decision making. Because you want to be able to make decisions every day, every week, and the best way you can do that is to utilize up-to-date records, um, animal performance records that will show you where you are going to, show your road to market, show you
Mm.
where you need to improve, show you where you need to adjust, and all of this. So without records, you will just be blind. Um,
True.
one final part I want us to touch on before we end it for today.
Okay.
Um, um, there is a tendency for yeah, should I call it a tendency? There's this attitude for pig farmers to always want to look at disease treatments. Heavy use of antibiotic usage is one of the malpractices that plague pig farming in Nigeria. I don't know about from your zone, heavy use
A
of
lot.
antibiotics.
A lot.
It has always been our feeling as responsible farmers to limit the use of antibiotics by sustained disease prevention techniques, recognizing disease on time and preventing disease from occurring in the farm. How do you manage disease occurrence in your farm?
First and foremost, what we're trying to put up measures. Actually, not even trying. We implement some measures at the farm. These diseases, most of them, when you realize, people are the ones who move them. Let's not talk about one which is in its own category, African swine fever. That's its own category. But we are trying to look at, if you put up measures at the farm, you realize that these measures that we put up at the farm help a lot to prevent disease. Two, do you know that people who do what we call because for me at the farm on a weekly basis, I do what we call pig fumigation. Actually pig spraying. I spray the pigs. I spray the pigs. What do I spray the pigs with? I mix the medicine in a knapsack. They go ahead and they spray the skin of the pig. At least that one, we are trying to look at getting mange off, because people always look at giving an injection to get mange off. Do you get my argument, Victor?
Yeah. So okay.
People always want to use antibiotics. People always want to use antibiotics to get the mange of the animals. But personally, I don't always want that. That means you are going to be injecting a lot of antibiotics to this animal, and you are going to distort its breeding performance. Most cases, those antibiotics always distort the breeding bit. You realize that an animal does not produce well, or you are going to go ahead and if it is to produce, it will produce mummified kinds of things. Then we try to put up on different kinds of other diseases. But yet these are antibiotics. If even in human being, you are not advised to always, at least, you can't even have antibiotics for continuously. Like every month you're having antibiotics for over 3 days, every month. That's a lot. It's a lot. So there are things that we can do in our own capacity. The medicine that for me I use to spray my cows at the farm is the same medicine I mix in, because you realize that they help on the pig skin. I mix it in a knapsack. I spray my pigs every week. In that situation, I'm fighting off the mange. Because you see, when you look at this medicine, it helps to fight off the mange. So I'm going to spray them on a weekly basis. And you realize that my pigs will be very clean. They will not have the mange. It will be so clean.
Okay, so what do you spray? What's the composition of the liquid you spray the animals every week?
The composition of the liquid I spray is actually given by the vet. But the one which I used to spray, you realize that you use 50 mils. You use 50 mils in 20 liter.
I didn't get that.
You use 50 milliliters of the liquid composition in the 20 liter knapsack. 20 liters of water, mix 50 mils of that component. I'm going to share some of them. I'll be sharing them on our groups so that people can be able to see. You may not really get exactly what I have, but the composition of these help. I mean, you may have a different company in your own area or region, but you have the same composition. You can go ahead and use that. You realize that most of them that are sprayed on the cows, they work on the pigs. Most of those, that composition that we use on the cow is what we use on the pigs. Most of them, because at least they are good for the animals. So you go ahead and you spray them off, because when you read about them, they kill the mange. Me, I use that to kill the mange. So when you pick the pig from my farm, it is as clean as it is. But you go to the people's farms and you find a pig very dirty, even if it is you, much as you are taking it on the abattoir. How do you really feel? People take pigs as pigs, but let's respect the rights of these animals. You need to have it clean.
Thank you for this.
Yes.
I think a combination of biosecurity and
Yes.
hygiene is crucial to
I
disease
shared the video sometime when one of my boys was spraying these animals, because we spray them on a weekly basis. Every Saturday they have to be sprayed. Like they mix it in the knapsack and they spray. But you realize that they are always clean. You're not going to find it scratching itself all the time. You're not going to find it. Actually, you'll not even find house flies. But you go on a certain farm when terrible.
Yeah. So a combination of biosecurity and I think I'll have to get that video from you,
Yes.
maybe to share to our community so people can actually see.
Yeah.
People can actually see what this involves. But basically, simply put, biosecurity, your ability to limit human contact with your animals. Only
Yes.
essential workers get access to your head. Um, the ability to maintain proper hygiene
Yes.
is crucial. And I
Yes.
would just want to add this final factor because I keep saying this severally. Quality nutrition is usually the first defense the pig has against disease. If the pigs are fed with the right combination of feed, and they are fed in the right proportion, sorry, then you have been able to tackle 80% of your problem. You know,
Actually,
uh,
actually, actually, let me first hint something small on that, on the nutrition.
okay,
You see,
yeah,
the advantage that we are having at this side in Uganda is that we're having nutritionists, doctors who are nutritionists, and they have gone
okay,
ahead to understand the nutrition of the animal, most especially with the pig. The
okay,
kind of feeds right now that they have started putting on the market, I'm a fan. I don't buy these things of cow dyes or anything of the sort on the international market. The feed I'm using at the farm is a feed for a doctor, a Ugandan doctor, a nutritionist who has been able to do the concentrate. But when you look at the difference of his concentrate is, first and foremost, when the animal consumes this feed, the fecal matter that is coming out doesn't smell.
okay,
That's one. Two, it builds the skin. There is a way it puts the skin to a level, like it is on a shining level, like the skin is always good. I always
okay,
give him a feedback of the feed on how it is performing, because with the nutrition, we don't want to believe that even in Africa we have good nutritionists who can be able to give us good feed. But the problem again that I still strongly advocate is that we can have nutritionists in Africa, in our different regions, whereby who can be able to assess the feed components that we have in our regions to go ahead and design a concentrate which is friendly, cost friendly, and effective for our industry. But we always have a mentality that everything which is good always has to be imported. That's the mentality that we are having. I go ahead and testify. In our region, people were discouraging the concentrate. They were saying that we don't believe that concentrate will be able to work. In my country, Uganda, I said it's okay. I'm one of the people who is having those high good genetics because of my experience I got from the Anthos genetics. This is a simple story for me to give to the people and our listeners. I said it's okay. I'm a kind of person who does very good bookkeeping. I'll give a record to the doctor and he will be able to improve this. I got my parent stock. I got them actually when they were underweight, because before I imported mine, grandparents, these are people who had the grandparents. So I went and bought an F1, the CG36, from such a person, from my colleague. Now, when he gave it to me, it was 27 kilos, and yet At that age, it's supposed to be between 35, it's supposed to be between 33 and 38 kilos, at least in between. Lower bound is 33, higher bound is 38 kilos. But he gave it to me when it was 27 kilos. So when I got it at the farm, that was around 3 months and 4 days. When I got it on the farm, the first thing which I had to do was I had to deworm. When I dewormed, I gave it what we call multivitamins. After doing all that, then I knew whatever I've given to this animal, it's supposed to be stress-free. If it's about roundworms and langworms, it does not have right now, according to the medication. So I expect performance. Because it was jolly, the animal was lively and everything of the sort. So I went head on and I decided to give the first batch of the concentrate to this animal. Victor, you can't believe it was optimal. The performance was excellent. I went ahead, I'm a testimony myself. I do record and I always give him my weight records. My weight records. I did not alter the mixing ratios. I mix what it is on the concentrate or the bag. So I told him, doctor, how I wish we can go ahead and we supply this in our regions in Africa. I believe people can know that we do not need even the feeds from Holland. We do not need the feeds from Germany. We do not need the feeds from anywhere, which are very high. These are people who have designed their things basing on their needs. They look at the environment and everything that they have, and they're trying to limit through. But here in Africa, our resources are very low. I mean, we have high resources at a very low price. You cannot tell me that we can fail today. Why would Nigeria reach a moment whereby you have to look at a concentrate or you have to import a premix to come and use in Nigeria, and that you have the maize? You cannot fail to get the lysine from the soybean or meal or anything of the sort. You have the fish and everything of the sort. You can't tell me that there is no nutritionist who can come through and then design this, implement this. It means these people need to understand that we have changed. You get the point, Victor? So that is my furious bit of it. Why would a person be stressing himself with nutrition? Yes, you have acquired a good genetic, but again, you have to buy an imported concentrate for you able to work. That is wrong. But anyway, I realize that there are two things. In Africa, we always want shortcuts. You realize that someone will design something good and they are going to go ahead and duplicate it. We do not have what we call consumer protection. These are all the things that are supposed to. That's why now when you go to countries like Korea, there's nothing like you're supposed to be buying maize brand and you mix. Now that is where we are supposed to be going. Because even the nutritionists may design a very good concentrate, but what we are adding may not be of good quality. Because if I tell you that the maize which is supposed to be added is supposed to be at least with a moisture content of 13. How many people do have the moisture machines to know that it's supposed to be 13? No one.
Yeah,
you get a point.
Yeah, that's a valid point because
yes,
I have once interrogated farmers on the
yes,
need for them to take most of their feed ingredients to lab to run some kind of analysis on it.
yes.
Because in my opinion, we usually assume that this particular feed ingredient is what it says it is. For instance, most of the maize we buy, we assume that it has so and so calorie per kilo. Most of the protein sources, soya meal that we use, we assume that it's supposed to be 45% or thereabout CP. But if you take this to the lab, run proximate analysis on it, you might really be surprised with what you are getting at the end of the day.
Exactly. Now that's where my point goes to, Victor. If companies should come, actually, that's our pig sector in Uganda is on the rise. I was talking to a director of a Korean company, Q-Feed company. They came and visited at the farm, and I was the third to be visited in Uganda. They came to visit at the farm because they really wanted to see how I work, and they wanted to see how we can work hand in hand. But because they are setting up their machinery in Uganda and they are going to do the production in Uganda. But when I was trying to look at what you call what you call the livestock act in Korea, in actually South Korea. They have a very high consumer protection act. Anything is supposed, if a company is producing the concentrate, it's supposed to be producing a feed mill, a full feed mill. Anything that goes wrong, it is a company which is supposed to be held responsible. But you see, a company may tell you, Victor, that for me, I gave you the concentrate. Whatever you mixed was wrong. But you see, with the company, it's going to be standard. If it's about moisture content, it's going to have a very constant moisture content. So it's going to give you a full feed meal. It will give you a creep feed. You only buy the creep feed, open the creep feed, and serve direct to the animal. So that if at least you realize that there's no performance, then you know it is the meal. Not even the animal, but it is the meal. But that is what we call continuous. It is continuous. It is continuous and stable supply of both the nutrients to the animal. Because as I'm telling you, these people are using high value machines, which machines are able to know that here it's supposed to be a constant thing. Like how you're going to eat an eclair or you're going to eat chocolate, Cadbury chocolate or anything, and it is constant. The way you started eating it, when you go to another state in Nigeria, it will be the same. When you go to another state in Nigeria, it will be the same. That is now where we're supposed to be heading as farmers. Because today you're going to see, farmers are going to say, in our region, maize is very expensive. And then others will say, in our region, maize is cheap. But if you have a feed which is constant, you only buy the feed well done from the factory, and they're just going to feed the animals. I expect we shall have minimized a number of in-between issues that would have caused performance to fail.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've come to the end of today's session, and
Wonderful.
I must really appreciate you. We've actually had a very holistic conversation. We've touched on a little about everything. We've looked at genetics, we've looked at management, we've looked at record keeping, we've looked at nutrition, and it's interesting how far farmers have to go to really appreciate that pig farming is profitable. If we don't get the basics right, like my friend would say, Mr. Tapio, I said, your farmers need to get it right the first time.
Yes.
Farming can be very daunting. Farming can be very challenging, and if you do not get it, chart a clear step towards achieving your goal and do the right thing at the right time, then you might just run away from the business. So it is important for farmers to get it right the first time. And I thank you for staying with us throughout this program. We will definitely expand our discussion. We'll bring in more. Guests in subsequent programs to further provide some kind of analysis on the pig sector in Africa and the way forward. Thank you very much, Emerging Farmer. Thank you very much, and I hope we'll have you on this program some other time.
Thank you. My closing remark on this, I want to tell the farmer, don't house poor genetics in good houses. Don't feed poor genetics on quality feed. You are making the seller rich, and you yourself, you're making yourself poor. Quality genetics are expensive in purchase, but you realize in the long run, you do not know why your expense would have even gotten lost from, because they're so profitable. Let's concentrate on good genetics. Always understand quality genetics. If you need help, always reach out to us. We help you. We can have, and I repeat, we can have a very profitable sector of piggery in Africa, and all of us can be smart.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor.
And for those who've been with us, it's you can actually go through the live from the beginning. To if you didn't follow us, didn't join from the beginning, you can actually go to the live and follow our discussion. If you have a question, you can drop it. You can simply drop it on the comment section, and we'll try to respond. Thank you very much once again, and stay tuned for any other information we'll have to share.
Okay, then,
All right.
Victor, have a good
Bye
evening.
from my end. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye bye.